All right, today we're jumping headfirst into one of the Bible's most enduring mysteries, the 144,000. We're going to unpack one specific and incredibly detailed theory that connects prophecies from all over Scripture to tell this epic story, one that involves angelic beings, a globe-spanning mission, and ultimately a final judgment.
So, let's start with the big question, all right? This number, 144,000, pops up in the book of Revelation, and it's had people guessing for centuries. Who are they? What's their deal? And what's their purpose? Well, according to the interpretation we're going to walk through, the answer starts by finding clues in some pretty unexpected places.
Now, the source material we're looking at today doesn't just throw out a simple opinion. No, it builds a complete, step-by-step case. It's like a detective story, connecting dots you might never have thought to connect, all to reveal a very specific identity and mission for this mysterious group.
Okay, so our journey into this puzzle starts by linking two really key prophecies. And the first clue is this powerful image of a stone that's cut from a mountain. In this particular theory, that mountain is identified as a very specific place, the city of Jerusalem. First up, we've got this verse from Zechariah. It talks about a future siege of Jerusalem. And get this, exactly half the city is taken captive. It's literally cut off from the rest. So remember that phrase, cut off. It's piece number one of our puzzle.
Okay, now hold that thought. Let's jump over to the book of Daniel. See if this sounds familiar. Here we see another image, a stone that's cut out of a mountain, but this time it says without hands, and this stone goes on to smash a final global empire to pieces.
So, here's the big aha moment in this theory. The argument is that these two prophecies are talking about the exact same event. The half of the city that gets cut off is the stone cut without hands. So we're not talking about a literal rock here, but a group of people taken from Jerusalem and sent out into the world.
And where are they sent? The text says the stone is cast into the sea, but we're not talking about the ocean. This theory points to other scriptures where the sea is a symbol, a metaphor for the chaotic, rebellious nations of the world. So being cast into the sea really means being scattered among all the peoples of the earth.
All right, so if this prophetic stone is a group of people cut from Jerusalem and sent out into the world, it obviously leads to the million-dollar question, who are they? Who are we talking about here?
And this is where it all comes together. The core claim of this entire interpretation is that this stone, this group of people cut from the mountain, is none other than the 144,000. This is the central idea that ties everything else together.
But it's not enough to just put a number on them, right? We need to understand what they do. And to explain their function, this theory dives into some really powerful ancient symbolism, specifically the two witnesses and the two giant bronze pillars from Solomon's temple.
Okay, so stick with me here. This is really cool. The idea is that the 144,000 act as what Revelation calls the two witnesses. Then, the theory draws this incredible parallel between them and those two massive bronze pillars, Jachin and Boaz, that guarded Solomon's temple. Just like those pillars stood for stability and were made of a unique material, the 144,000 are meant to be a foundation for God's plan, totally distinct from the world around them.
Okay, but how do you get from two pillars to a specific number? Well, this is where it gets really fascinating. The source lays out a step-by-step calculation based on the pillars' biblical dimensions. First, their volume is calculated to be 72 units. You multiply that by the 200 symbolic pomegranates on top of them, which gives you 14,400. And finally, you multiply that by 10 based on the Jewish concept of a minyan to get to that final famous total.
And boom, there's your number. See, according to this theory, it's not just pulled out of thin air. It's derived directly from the symbolism and the architecture of the temple itself, cementing that connection between the prophetic stone, the pillars, and this chosen group.
So we've identified who they are and even how their number is calculated. But what's their mission? What are they supposed to actually do? Well, that takes us right back to that symbol of the sea. Their mission is out there, among the nations of the world.
And let me tell you, their journey is intense. It's this epic, heart-wrenching timeline. It starts with them as captives, scattered across the globe. For 3.5 years, they testify, and they have the divine power to call down plagues. But their mission ends in martyrdom. And that's still not the end of the story. They're brought back to life, they ascend to heaven, and then they return in total victory.
All right, we've covered who they are and what they do. But now we get to what is, without a doubt, the most startling and controversial part of this whole interpretation. It's a radical question about the very nature of the 144,000.
The source material just comes right out and asks it, are these individuals fully human? And the answer it provides is probably the most shocking part of the theory. The answer is no, not entirely.
So where does this wild idea even come from? Well, the theory points to a few key pieces of evidence. They're called virgins, which is seen as a unique spiritual state. They have these superhuman powers. The theory even pulls from ancient non-biblical texts like the Book of Enoch. And it all leads to this jaw-dropping conclusion, that they are actually angelic beings born to human mothers, but fundamentally altered by angels at the very moment of conception.
Okay, so after all of this epic mission, this controversial identity, where does it all lead? What's the final endgame for the 144,000 and for the world?
Well, the key to the whole thing, according to this interpretation, is found in this really famous verse from the Gospel of Matthew. The way people treat the least of these becomes the ultimate standard for judgment.
And that's the bottom line. That's the whole point. In this view, the 144,000 scattered out there in the sea of nations become the final test for all of humanity. How you treat them is how you've treated God. And after that final judgment, the 144,000 are raised up to rule and reign for 1,000 years.
So there you have it. An incredibly detailed, complex tapestry woven from prophecy, symbolism, numerology, even architecture. It's a lot to take in for sure. And it kind of leaves you with this one big thought. What does a theory this intricate, this all-encompassing, really tell us about our own deep human need to find patterns and ultimately to find meaning in these ancient texts?